Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with the company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. For more information about them, visit their website, briargreavesinsurance.com, or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And you're really going to want to give Briar Greaves Insurance a call, because if you do give them a call with that number that I just mentioned, and you have a conversation with them, see how Briar Greaves can help you with your insurance situation, you will automatically be entered into a raffle to win free tickets into the lower bowl at Raymond James Stadium for the Bucs Falcons game at Ray J in December on Thursday Night Football, which is also the creamsicle game. Yeah. All you got to do is give them a call and you'll be automatically entered into the raffle for Bucs Falcons on Thursday Night Football. Sounds like a pretty good deal, so make sure you give Briar Greaves Insurance a call today. It is a Tuesday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. We don't typically go on Tuesdays, but when the Bucs play on Mondays, we do. And we're going to talk about a pretty juicy topic that the Bucs must trade for an edge rusher. We'll also talk more about last night's game where the Bucs fell to the Lions and give some injury updates as well. So let's get to it. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Scott, we're not even 24 hours removed from the Bucs game last night, but how are we feeling after having a little more time to think about what went on?
A busy day. Cranked out the Bucs mailbag. You did a couple stories yourself. You did the Haason Reddick injury update. We talked to Todd Bowles this morning. We'll talk about that in a second. You also did snap counts, and I've done the 2-point conversion column. So we've done a lot of writing for pewterreport.com today. Make sure you go check out our work. I dropped a couple of those stories in the chat here. I've not had a chance to go back and watch the tape. I'm going to be doing that at 5:01, the minute this podcast is over. But I did take some notes down about a couple of things, and I put a couple of those nuggets out there on social media on our X account at Pewter Report. Make sure you follow that if you're not. A couple interesting notes here, right? We're quick to criticize Baker Mayfield for throwing the ball high and being inaccurate for most of the night. He completed just over 50% of his passes, but he was under siege last night. He was pressured 30 times, 30 by the offensive line. Rachaad White also gave up a pressure. 9 pressures surrendered by right tackle Charlie Heck, and 9 by right guard Michael Jordan. That is not good. Each of those players gave up a sack. This is all from Pro Football Focus in terms of the statistics that they keep. So, take that with a grain of salt, but seemed to kind of jive with the eye test last night. And Graham Barton, a player that we have to call out. I mean, he did not play well at all. Aleem McNeil, we talked about it last night on the podcast, owned him. And he gave up 6 pressures himself. And, I'm just starting to think that this guy might be better suited as a guard rather than a center. And I know I'm speaking to deaf ears and the organization when I say things like that, but I'm just telling you, we saw Ali Marpet try to play center. He was an above average center, wasn't great. And when he played guard, he was a Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowl caliber center. Sometimes, you're trying to, I know Jason Licht and Todd Bowles, they want to find the next Ryan Jensen so bad. And you kind of prioritize left tackle, right tackle, center, and then your guards are, I don't say they're expendable, but they're not the pivot. They're not the anchor of that offensive line. And when you draft a first-round offensive lineman, probably should be a tackle, probably should be a center. But you know what? If this guy is a B- center, but he could be a B+ or A- guard, I don't know, man. Sometimes it's not that hard. And I see him struggle. We saw him struggle with Vita Vea all training camp long.
Right.
And I just think he would rather be, I think he would be better suited at guard. So those are the pressures that I kind of cataloged. Also did a deep dive on the missed tackles. The Bucs missed 15 tackles And Matt, we saw that was an issue. And I was shocked to hear Todd Bowles say that, we had a couple missed tackles in the first drive and a couple missed tackles here, but overall it wasn't bad. I don't know, man. 15 tackles, that seemed pretty significant to me. Servassier Dennis, no surprise, 4 missed tackles. That was a season high. That was a high for Tampa Bay. Logan Hall missed 2 tackles. Zion McCollum and Antoine Winfield Jr. also missed 2.
Yeah.
The Bucs had previously, Matt, had their high was 11 missed tackles in that Falcons game in week 1. They only missed 7 tackles last week against the 49ers. This was double the amount of tackles they missed last night from that game against the 49ers. And that was a huge part in allowing the Lions to extend drives and for Jahmyr Gibbs to run wild.
It was, absolutely. And there was a key word and a key phrase that Todd Bowles mentioned today during his Zoom press conference. And it was talking about the missed tackles, and you kind of just brought it up. But it was angle of pursuit and fundamentals. Tackling certainly comes down to fundamentals. Even in today's NFL, when nobody wants to wrap up, it still shows how important it is. I think one of the biggest issues for Servassier Dennis specifically is angle of pursuits going after the receiving running back. Now, that first play by Jahmyr Gibbs on the opening drive that went for 30 yards, Servassier Dennis was almost stride for stride with him. But once Jahmyr Gibbs put on the brakes, there was no way for Servassier Dennis to kind of, recourse and get back to him. So that's still going to be an ongoing issue for Servassier Dennis that I think teams, if they're smart enough, will continue to attack. And as we know, the New Orleans Saints got a pretty talented receiving running back in Alvin Kamara, who has done it, though the Bucs have done it a good job in recent years of kind of bottling him up. It's certainly an advantage they're trying to exploit. Zion McCollum as well. One of the missed tackles that bothered me the most was the Jahmyr Gibbs rushing touchdown from about 4 to 5 yards out. The Bucs, I get it, was first and goal. The odds of them stopping them 3 times is probably not that high, but I mean, you got to battle for every single inch.
Yeah.
And they had Jahmyr Gibbs done, tackled, and then Zion came in on the side and just completely whiffed on Jahmyr Gibbs. He got like part of him, but again, he didn't actually try to wrap him up, so he was able to spin out and get that touchdown.
Yeah.
I think more and more teams are going to try to run the ball to the outside and try to get after Zion McCollum. Now, Zion, as a rookie, had a lot of tackling issues. He was able to really clean it up over the past couple of seasons. I wonder how much that hand injury is bothering him from actually going and making physical tackles versus just kind of throwing his shoulder at someone, because there's a big difference there. To go back to what you were originally talking about, I'm in full agreement. I thought Graham Barden had one of his worst games in his NFL career. And you're spot on about the issues with Charlie Heck, and Mike Jordan didn't look that good either. But to me, Graham Barden really stood out the most in terms of when you're getting pushed back right at the center position, Baker cannot stay in an engulfed pocket because he is a smaller quarterback.
That's right.
Guys like Peyton Manning and Josh Allen can stand there and let it rip and let it fire. Baker just can't because of the size of him overall. It's just that's just how it is with Baker Mayfield, but he still does a lot of things great. This has been a little bit of a trend for Graham Barden in terms of kind of getting beat up in the middle. And what's crazy is you see him look so good at left tackle, which they're obviously not going to move him to left tackle with Tristan Wirfs on this team. But you see him look so good without having to worry about snapping the ball. And I think there's something there because I played center back in the day as well. And I'm not comparing myself to a starting NFL center on any team, let alone the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But when you got to think about snapping it versus what the call protection is versus what the guys are doing next to you,
it's a lot.
It's an extra thing to put on the plate versus just playing guard or just playing tackle, where it's one less thing that you have to do. I know it sounds simple, but I'm curious how much that could impact him as well, especially because Ben Bredeson looked pretty good at center when he played center the first 2 games, and Barden was good at left tackle. I think if you do a little flip-flop and put Bredeson at center and Graham Barden at guard, I'm curious how that will do for the team as well. And they also have a decision to make at right guard with Mike Jordan because he is on the practice squad. Now, some spots are probably going to open up with Mike Evans and Haason Reddick. Do you call him up and continue to play him at guard? Dan Feeney got in for one snap as an extra blocker on the fourth down run.
It's a fullback. That was cool.
by Rachaad White. Maybe they line him up. And you still have Elijah Klein in the hopper as well. So could be a week-to-week business when it comes to starting at right guard for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, it's going to be – it's a short week, right, because we're already here on Tuesday, and the Buccaneers just released their media schedule, so we'll have media availability tomorrow. Baker Mayfield, Todd Bowles up in the locker room, and then Thursday as well. The Bucs will have a walkthrough. That's not unexpected, not only due to the fact that they're banged up, but they just played on Monday night and flew home last night. So it is a short week. It's very common for teams on a short week like this where you play that Monday night game to have a walkthrough just to give – those bodies a chance to heal and recover a little bit. I would expect we're going to see a laundry list of injuries tomorrow, probably more so on the bumps and bruises side. Don't have any information right now about Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, Luke Edeke, Matt. I'm expecting none of those players back for this week's game. I would be shocked if we saw Godwin, Irving, or Gedeke. I think we're looking at after the bye week for that.
Yeah, I think we all need to recalibrate, Bucs fans. Everything is going to be after the bye. And remember, it's all about the long haul. It's all about being healthy in December, or as healthy as you possibly can, because the Bucs can't go more than one game without a number of players getting injured.
Yeah.
But it's all about the playoff run, the stretch run in December, January, and hopefully February. So patience is a virtue. I know it's frustrating. Hey, I have Bucky Irving on one of my fantasy teams, and it's hurting my fantasy team right now. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Heck, not spectacular. You want Luke Edeke in there, but it's going to take a little bit of time. But as we know, forget about just the Lions game. This team can win with different parts. You know, they can go to the pawn shop and find a right tackle or a wide receiver to help get the job done. Don't let this one loss to the Detroit Lions let you think that the Bucs are done for. They're still 5-2. They're still a very competitive team. And we saw how the Lions were pissed after losing to Kansas City, and they kind of took it out on the Bucs. I don't want to be the New Orleans Saints this week because you're going to be talking about a pissed Bucs team ready to right the ship against New Orleans.
Yeah, I hope they are. And I want your comment on this, Matt, because I talked about it a little bit last night. This is from Rolf Steinbauer Sports, Pewter Report TV channel member. Thank you, Rolf. No accountability from Baker last night was odd. I found a little odd too. We were, we were ready to go at around 10:40 last night with the podcast. Matt and I were texting, and we're like, let's hold off till Baker comes. And they were like, damn it, we're going to give him like 5 more minutes. Then we're going to go live with the podcast. Screw Baker, And then, and as Murphy's Law strikes, it's like, okay, boom, here's Baker. So I really wanted to hear what Baker had to say, and I kind of expected him to say this one's on me, didn't have a good game, throws were a little high. And I really didn't hear that from him. And I don't know if he didn't want to give his critics some ammunition, the people that, that were forced to eat crow about his play with all of this MVP talk so early. And now those people have granted, it's only one bad game. I mean, every quarterback has a bad game in the season. That's the case. But I just wonder if he just didn't want to give him any ammunition or what that is. I kind of expect to hear a little bit more when he goes back and looks at the tape. Hopefully he sees, and not that he needs to do a mea culpa or, or capitulate or anything like that. But it was a little surprising to hear him as the leader and the team captain say, hey, I missed Tez on a touchdown we should have had. I missed Emeka, underthrew him. That should have been 2 touchdowns. Those are on me. Because we have heard that before. Did it surprise you, Matt?
I can't say I get what you're saying. I can't say I'm like totally surprised about it, just in terms of Baker so many times, whether good or bad, has taken the blame. Like there was times earlier in the season where he was like, I got to take a lot of the blame for the sacks that I've been taking. I need to get rid of the ball, or I didn't call the right protection for the offensive line. So I think there's several examples of Baker owning things that he did wrong or taking the blame for maybe something that wasn't even his fault, but he's kind of jumping on the issue to protect some of his other teammates.
Right.
So I never thought of it that way. To be honest with you, my gut feeling is that Baker, who does wear his heart on his sleeve and he's a fiery guy, we know that. I think Baker was still livid that the team lost overall, and he probably knows that he played a big hand in them losing. But also, he was jawing at the referee at the end. they always say you need like 10 to 15 minutes to kind of cool down and calm down before you go and speak to the media, because that's when you end up, saying something that gets clipped and goes viral and all that stuff for the wrong reasons. Baker's had a lot of viral moments for the right reasons since he's come to Tampa Bay.
Sure.
But I think it was one of those moments where Baker's probably still a little bit more ticked off than he needed to be when speaking to the media, and just kind of let it marinate straight from what he was thinking into a microphone and out to the media as well. Because it's not like Baker, while he was mad at the refs for sure, he didn't throw any of his teammates under the bus or anything like that. It wasn't like Tua being like, hey, guys are late to team meetings and player only meetings. It wasn't anything like that. I didn't find too much issue with Baker not saying like, hey, this is all on me. I'm sure if he gets asked tomorrow about how would you assess your play, he would probably say I was terrible. Like, again, being hard on himself, like I was terrible or I was bad. So a little strange, but I'm not really gonna lose sleep over it.
Yeah, for sure. Tommy Leverone with a great comment here and a good question. Scott, were you surprised the Bucs abandoned the run so quickly? Only ran the ball 11 times the whole game. I was, and I'm going to give Josh Grizzard some grace here because this was a big game. There's no doubt about it. But this is game 7 where he's calling plays for the first time. This is a different environment. He's at a couple of road games for sure. This was a really big game. And this was a game that the Tampa Bay, it felt like they were down more than they actually were. And and you look at the scoreboard and the scoreboard never lies, right? The stat sheet can lie. You can sit there and say Aleem McNeil had 1 tackle. Like, no, Aleem McNeil was a game wrecker last night. Also had a big time pass breakup at the line of scrimmage. I think it was on a 3rd down to force a punt. So the stat sheet can lie. The scoreboard really, truly never lies. And if you're down 14 points, you're down 14 points, no matter how good you're playing, no matter how bad you're playing, right? If you're up 14, sometimes you look at it and say, man, we should be up 28 points. We had this turnover there. We missed a field goal here, whatever. But the scoreboard, it is what it is. And at the end of the game, what the scoreboard says is the verdict. It's that simple. No matter how good or bad you played, that's what it says. And so I think for Josh Grizzard, it's understanding that, hey, this isn't working. We're having a hard time running the ball. We're only down, 2 points. Or, hey, we just got a field goal right before halftime, and we need to come out and reestablish the running game. I do think he abandoned the run too quickly. Yeah. Guess what? He's a pass game coordinator at heart. We've seen that with Byron Leftwich before, too, who was what, Matt? A quarterback in the NFL. Usually when you've got those guys that are more in tune with the passing game, that's their fallback. That's their default, right?
Yeah.
And if you have an offensive line coach who is your offensive play caller, you're probably more likely to run the ball a little bit more, And I think Dave Canales ran the ball a little too much at times and leaned on that, especially in 3rd and short situations. He didn't like to throw the ball. He liked to just run the ball in 12 and 13 personnel. It wasn't always successful. It's predictable. So that's one of the takeaways I have from this is this was a learning lesson for Josh Grizzard. He's going to get better from this. Remember the comeuppance that Liam Cohen suffered last year? I mean, 37 points in week 1. He and gets enough points, 20-16 to beat the Lions, comes home and only puts up 7 points against the Denver Broncos, right, in week 3.
That's so funny you say that. I was just looking up that score. I was going to say, I think this game that they lost last night to the Lions is last year's version of their home loss to the Denver Broncos in terms of, and did it impact them for the rest of the season? No, not really. They got right back on track with what they were able to do offensively. So I just look at it as a blip on the radar in terms of what Tampa Bay on offense wasn't doing in that game. It almost felt like they were in quicksand a little bit offensively. And they say with quicksand, if you're sinking in, don't try to fight it. That makes you go kind of even deeper. And I think that speaks to the Bucs throwing 50 times. Now, granted, a lot of that was towards the end of the game when you had no choice and you had to throw it. But I don't want to say panic, but it seemed like they were sped up a little bit based on, I think part of it too was the way that Detroit was scoring with some big explosive plays. And you almost got to sit back and remind yourself, like, you can't erase a 15-point deficit in one play. There's no 15-point play.
That's exactly
And it would have been nice for the Bucs, while you love the explosive plays, they never really got that big methodical drive going on, which I think helps on the road. It would help rest the defense a little bit that was on the field plenty of times, especially because the Bucs had 2 straight 3-and-outs to begin the games. And you can kind of do that by running the ball a little bit more. And to me, one of the most surprising things, and understandably, again, with them being down by 2 scores late in the game, they had to throw it a lot. Rachaad White, who I still think is a very capable starter for the Bucs, and hopefully they re-sign him in the offseason. Rachaad White played 90% of the snaps in yesterday's game. Sean Tucker played 10%. And I'm not here saying, like, Sean Tucker needs 10 carries and Rachaad White needs 15, and it should be, like, kind of even. But the Bucs are pretty thin at running back right now, with Bucky Irving still going to be out for a little bit, Josh Williams in concussion protocol. You're going to wear out Rachaad White. And we've seen so many injuries. I get it. Rachaad White's your best pass blocking running back. He can get it done in the passing game. And certainly with all the pressures that Detroit was getting, you probably need him in there. But to have it 90-10 seems like such a big gap that is unnecessary. Sean Tucker has the ability to break some home run plays that Rachaad White doesn't. So I'd like to see him get a couple more opportunities, or just don't make it 90-10.
I agree. Matt,
I think if you want to make it 65-35, that's fine. But 90-10 is just way too out of whack, in my opinion.
I think you're spot on with that. And it sounds like you wrote the snap counts article today.
I did,
no, I think you're spot on, because the thing too is it's not just, he only had 10 carries. And again, I think this is kind of a lesson that Josh Grizzard can learn a little bit. Whether you're coaching Pop Warner, high school, college, pro, there are so many things that are happening at the moment where you just don't realize what's happening sometimes, right? The game is just happening and you got a million things, what's the down and distance, what's the personnel grouping, what's how much time is left, how many timeouts do we have? Just all these things running through your head as you're trying to spit plays out, and you only have 20 seconds to kind of do it because you have to get to the line and call it. It's a lot. And I think sometimes it's those types of things that slip through your hands. And it's not the fact that you think, Rachaad White, he only had 11 or 10 carries and a couple of catches. No, he was out there every single rep running routes, right? Getting out into the backfield, staying in a pass protect. I mean, all of that stuff expends energy, whether you're dashing 15 yards out into the flat, and then having to go back to the huddle and do it again, or get a carry, or stick your nose in there and take on a blitzing linebacker, or a looping edge rusher, or trying to chip Aiden Hutchinson. All of that stuff is physically taxing, and it wears you down. And you're right, Matt. I mean, there's no running back that should have 90 plus snaps in terms of the percentage in this league, especially when you have a capable backup like Sean Tucker. And I think, I think Josh Grizzard is going to learn a ton of lessons from this. And the one thing that I really like about this coaching staff and Todd Bowles especially is he's been there and done that before with Dave Canales. He's been there and done that before with Liam Cohen. He has helped these young callers grow and learn. And the great part about having a George Edwards and a Larry Foote to help kind of take some of the pressure off of the game planning and the defense in general, as those guys share that coordinator role on defense, even though Todd calls the plays, is it allows Todd to sit down on a Tuesday morning and go over what happened with Josh, the offensive coordinator. And he does so, Matt, and I think this is the key thing, he does so from a defensive-minded perspective. And he said, this is what you did wrong, because I'm thinking of this from a defensive standpoint. I'm trying to stop what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think that type of feedback is just so instrumental. And I think that's why we saw Dave Canales rapidly get better as the season went on. He was calling his best plays in December and January. Same thing with Liam Cohen. So I love the fact that you have a coach now that has been there and done that a couple of times with a couple of first-time rookie play callers. And again, this will be a lesson learned from Josh Grizzard. Not to say he's never going to call another bad game, but we're not going to see some of these mistakes happen again, I don't think.
Right. And another thing I would suggest as well, when it comes to running the football, like, let's remember when Liam Cohen was here, he took a team that was dead last running the football to making them a, top 5, top 3 rushing attack in the league. Now, obviously, Bucky Irving played a good role in that as well. But Rachaad White had 10 attempts for 38 yards. That's 3.8 yards per carry. That's not great, but it's not like 2 yards per carry or something like that. I think they've gotten a little comfortable with just kind of running right up the gut, like in between the center and either the right or left guard. I'd like to see a couple of more outside runs or a little bit. And they've gotten creative sometimes, like they'll put Sterling Shepard in the backfield or Cameron Johnson, maybe a little bit more pony package
I agree.
and stuff like that. But I think maybe a little bit more runs to the outside, pulling blockers. I mean, against Seattle, granted, it was at like the 3-yard line, but the rushing touchdowns that Rachaad White had in that game specifically,
easy.
He went untouched. It was a caravan into the end zone.
Right.
I just find it hard to believe that they can't kind of do that when they're at the 20 and they got to go 80 yards or they're at midfield. So
same thing with the Sean Tucker run last week against the 49ers. You know, same type of play off the left side.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter when they're at the goal line. Is just pitch to the outside and let Tristan Wirfs block 3 people at once. That tends to be successful. So, just want to see a couple of tweaks, but I'm with you. I mean, he's learning so much right now, Josh Grizzard. And if this is a pass-fail type of class, which it's not, I mean, we can grade it from A to F or whatever the case may be. But in terms of pass-fail, this is probably the first game that I would say Josh Grizzard failed at as an offensive coordinator. But when you look at all the other passes that he's had, you'd certainly take that than one bad game. Yeah,
for sure. Exactly. It's kind of like I'm looking at the weather outside right now, and I don't know about the weather in Tampa, Matt, but Wesley Chapel up here, it is absolutely gorgeous. And if I had any energy after this podcast, I might go play some golf, but I'm not going to today. But maybe you should. The weather is beautiful if you haven't noticed. Clear blue skies a lot of the days here. We're past kind of the stormy summer where it rains every day. So hit the links. And if you haven't tried Heritage Isles Golf and Country Club yet, do so. It's a fantastic course up here in the new Tampa area. It's ranked in the top 3 best value courses in the Tampa-St. Pete area by Golf Advisor. You can trust that. That's one of the best names around when it comes to golf. And it's a challenging course, beautiful scenery, open to the public. So you're welcome to attend, but it also has a country club you're welcome to join as well. For tee times, give them a call at 813-907-7447 or visit them on the web, Heritage Isles Golf and Country Club.
We have some super chats. We want to get into that.
Okay.
Zap Brannigan, thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, who, though? Talking about the title, about Bucs needing to trade for an edge rusher.
Yeah.
Hendrickson is out with a hip right now. A la Todd Bowles. He has a hip. And since he says they aren't in the market, maybe Max Crosby, I imagine he'd be expensive. I know Josh Capo did the maths, but reading is hard. Break it down, please.
Well, I will say this. So the freshest information that we know is at least the Bengals are 3-4 now since trading for Joe Flacco.
Yes.
And I think the strategy in Cincinnati, and as much as I'd love to see Trey Hendrickson return to the state of Florida, he's a Floridian by nature, and he also played at Florida Atlantic, where my daughter Jillian goes to school. And he would love to come back to the state of Florida, I'm sure, rather than toiling in Cincinnati right now. Right. But he is going to be locked in purgatory because the Bengals are not going to extend his contract. Instead, they're going to franchise him. And they can do so for an under market value, and they can probably franchise him again. The problem with Trey Hendrickson is the production is there. 17.5 sacks the last 2 seasons. That's tantalizing. He's got 4 sacks already this year. The pressures look good. All of that stuff. He's definitely worth trading for. But with the Bengals, they believe that they can avoid paying him, shocker, right? A multi-year deal because the Bengals are notoriously cheap, by just simply for the next 2 years getting some mileage out of him with the franchise tag, because he's in the last year of his contract. They reworked his last deal, gave him a bit of a raise, making around $30 million, but they can use the franchise tag over the next 2 years. And guess what? He'll be 31 in December. So they can essentially have him till age 33.
Mhm.
And nobody's really going to want Trey Hendrickson after age 33. And I tell you, if you look historically, especially here in Tampa, the year 32 is where the drop-off happens as a pass rusher. Simeon Rice fell off a cliff here. Jason Pierre-Paul, same thing. Injuries hit both Rice and Jason Pierre-Paul. We know what happened to Shaq Barrett with that Achilles injury at age 31, age 32. He was done. So that's the problem. You're getting a guy who's right at that cusp of, hey, you love that 17 and a half sacks, but that was last year. Is he going to do that again this year? More importantly, is he going to do it for the next year or two? Because Hendrickson, wherever he lands, is going to want a multi-year extension. Now, the Buccaneers, like the Bengals, could sit there and franchise him and play that game. It wouldn't set well, but that's an avenue. But it doesn't sound like Cincinnati is going to part ways with him.
No, it doesn't. And the injury right now would worry me as well. You don't want to trade for a guy that is a little banged up at the same time. Now, would it provide an immediate boost for Tampa Bay? Yeah, absolutely, if he is healthy.
Yeah.
The Crosby situation is the one that intrigues me a ton, just given the friendship and the relationship between the Bucs and the Raiders, from Jason Licht to John Spytek. Obviously, John Spytek was here in Tampa for several years, won a Super Bowl as one of the right-hand men to Jason Licht. So that one would intrigue me, especially with, Vegas got pummeled yesterday. What they lose? Or on
31-0.
31-0.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere this season. And this is the time of the year with the trade deadline in about 2 weeks where you're likely going to make a trade, like a good team, a playoff team, with a team that isn't going anywhere. And Crosby is big money. He has a little bit of an injury history as well, but he's all effort all the time, even on a team that's been really terrible his entire career with Oakland and then Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He would be the guy that I'd be most intrigued in terms of if the Bucs want to go big game hunting and get the big fish versus maybe a smaller type of option. But that one interests me.
Me too. He's 28, right? He's got more miles left on his tires. I want to say that Jason Pierre-Paul was 28 when the Bucs traded for him in 2018. That was the highest compensation that Jason Licht has ever doled out for any player. A third-round pick in the 2018 offseason for Jason Pierre-Paul. Really kind of fleeced the Giants, fleeced David Gettleman in that instance. I don't think he's going to fleece John Spytek. John's going to be like, hey, as much as I want to help you out, man, this Raiders gig is hard. You got to help me out and send some picks my way. So the compensation would be more for a player like Max Crosby, who was 4-time Pro Bowler, just like Trey Hendrickson. Maybe not the prolific sacker that Hendrickson is, putting up those gaudy numbers, but still very effective. He's had 3 years of double-digit sacks, 7.5 last year in a bit of an injury-filled season. I think he's got 4 this year, maybe 3. But yeah, at this point in time, if Haason Reddick is going to be out for multiple weeks, and I wrote about this on my 2-point conversion, Jason Licht has got to do something he doesn't want to do. He's got to bite the bullet. This is one of those special seasons. We talked about it, last night. It bears repeating for a second here. The 30 years I've covered this team, there's been 4 super seasons, truly super seasons, not just memorable seasons like, oh, they turned the corner in 1997 and Tony Dungy's second year. No, I'm talking about seasons where the Buccaneers were legitimate Super Bowl contenders. 1999, we know how that ended, right? In St. Louis. Not enough offense. Defense was great. Stopped the greatest show on turf, but that's where the road ended. In 2002, John Gruden comes in. Boom, they won a Super Bowl. They didn't have another special season until 2020. Tom Brady comes in. Boom, they win the Super Bowl. The next year, guess what? They were right there. 13 wins, best record in franchise history. They just lost some key pieces at the end of the season. Antonio Brown with the peace out. Chris Godwin got his knee taken out. Tristan Wirfs injured an ankle. Without those 3 stars, they didn't have enough firepower to match the Rams. So that's it. You've got in 30 seasons, in 3 decades I've covered this team, you've got 4 years. That's how rare these Super Bowl caliber seasons are. Matt, I'm going to give you the floor here in a second, but You look at the Commanders last year. They caught lightning in a bottle. Jaden Daniels, first-round pick. He comes in, takes the NFL by storm. Dan Quinn made all the right moves defensively. Washington, 12-5. They destroyed the Lions in the playoffs up there. They went to the NFC Championship game. They were right there knocking on the door. They couldn't beat the Eagles. The Eagles got more takeaways that day. Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl. But you look now, and everybody thought, oh, well, the Commanders are here to stay. Jaden Daniels is phenomenal. They're going to be a force in the NFC. They're 3-4, man. Yeah. Like you, there's no crystal ball. You can't sit there and say, oh, well, we'll get him next year. No, you're 5-2 with a chance to be 6-2. This is one of those special seasons. Hello, lights are flashing. Pay attention. It's time to do something that you don't want to do, maybe. And that's make a move to get another pass rusher, because you're not going to go to the Super Bowl and win it with Anthony Nelson and Yaya Diaby on the first string and Marquise Watts and Chris Braswell on the second string. It's not gonna do the job.
And on top of that, the NFC, the entire conference, it's a dog-eat-dog world right now. You have some tough heavy hitters. So if the Bucs don't make a move, someone else is going to make a move at
49ers,
probably at the
Eagles,
position.
Panthers, Cowboys.
The Cowboys are still very much in it. The only team that's not going to be looking for an edge rusher is the Packers, because they got Micah Parsons before the season ended. But I mean, the Eagles just brought in Brandon Graham. They got him out of retirement.
Yeah.
So edge rushers are one of the most important positions in the NFL. And it's time for Jason Licht to be proactive. And if they don't want to go with Crosby or Hendrickson,
McFly.
Jalen Phillips is another option. The edge rusher for the Miami Dolphins. Now, it's not a household name. It's not a big ticket type of player, but it's someone that can help with the overall depth that Tampa Bay is looking for at the outside linebacker position. So yeah, they can't stay stagnant with this one. Greatness, while it's the best, there's nothing better than having a great football team. It's fleeting as well. I mean, we all thought the Lions were going to be going every single year to the NFC Championship game. They didn't even make it last year. Now, again, they look pretty good this year, but you gotta take advantage when you have a good team, and the Bucs have a really good team right now.
I agree.
On the verge of being great, but it's going to be on Jason Licht to get them to that next level.
I like this comment by Greg DeCruz here. He says, but Scott, maybe Jason feels with all these injuries, it may not be their year. That's the case, and that was the case last year. That's why when this team lost to the Ravens, and then they said, let's see what happens. They lost the next week to the Falcons. And they just said, we're not going to be able to overcome this Mike and Chris, injuries here. And they had a losing record at that time. They're 5-2. That's the difference. The difference is, despite all these injuries, you're going to get Bucky Irving back. You're going to get Luke Edeke back. You're going to get Chris Godwin back, hopefully, knock on wood, asterisk. You're going to get Jalen McMillan back, right? So you've got the cavalry coming. Maybe Mike Evans pulls a Vita Vea and comes back for the playoffs or something, right? I mean, wouldn't you like to throw to a 6'5" wide receiver inside the red zone? I would, right? But so to me, unless the Buccaneers stub their toe in New Orleans, and maybe that's the game changer. Maybe at 5-3, they're just like, boy, we got an improved Panther team on the other side of the bye a couple of times. We got the Falcons that are going to be, out for blood. We've got the Patriots team right off the bat after the bye that is
really
on top of the AFC East right now. So maybe that's the thing. But at 6-2, I just think you gotta, you gotta go for it, man. And here's the thing: you need another pass rusher next year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, have we seen enough where we want Haason Reddick automatically re-signed?
No,
not me. Not for the price tag. Not for the age. No, not for the production.
And I know David Walker's coming back, but I'm not signing up for, they got David Walker. Like, they're set. He's going to be a stud. Like, I don't know. Guy's going into his second year, hasn't played a snap yet. I don't know if he's exactly going to save the edge rusher group. And that's the thing I would push back on as well. Well, if this is not the year, then when is it? What, do the Bucs have to go 7-0 in order for you to make a move? Like, 5-2 is pretty damn good for what you're going to get.
Hold on. I got to address this real quick.
Okay.
Realtor David Zussman. I know people in Pittsburgh, very, very high up people, stop with the Nick Herbig thing. They like him. They're not going to trade him. I know you want him in Tampa. It can happen on Madden. If you play Madden, it can happen. But my friend, it is not going to happen. The Steelers are not going to let go of him. He is a great situational pass rusher. So I know you're a fan of him. You want to see him in red and pewter. I wouldn't mind it. Not going to happen. Just address that.
Mace McGee, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, upon further review, I tip my cap to the Lions. Baker couldn't be accurate with the stress up the middle. He did rush throws. We'll be okay. Yeah, I think that's another thing, because at the time we're watching and everyone's going, they got third and fourth string players in the secondary. How are they not getting the job done? The great equalizer was the pass rush by the Detroit Lions. And while they were able to slow down Aiden Hutchinson, there's other guys going after Baker Mayfield as well. And the pressures were able to circumvent the lack of depth that the Lions had in the secondary. And they brought it too. So they deserve a lot of credit. Baker did miss some throws, and certainly the pass rush had something to do with it.
And I'll tell you what, too, give Kelvin Shepard, the defensive coordinator for the Lions, a ton of credit. He mixed up when he would bring pressure and when he would show pressure, and then there were times where he would bail 7 into coverage and then really have he would rush 3, have Jack Campbell there as a spy for Baker to negate all of those 15-yard runs on 3rd and 14 that Baker usually pulls out of his hat. It was just a brilliant game plan. Did a really good job showing pressure and bailing, and then showing pressure and coming and not understanding. Baker didn't know if they were coming or not, and it was really well executed game plan. And the thing is, when you drop 7, you're helping out all of those reserve players, because you're forcing Baker to keep a tight end and a back end. So a lot of times it's 7 defensive backs, or not defensive backs, but linebackers too, against 3 eligible receivers, right? And then there's no time for Baker to find those guys. They're not open, and all of a sudden you got Aleem McNeil driving Graham Barton into Baker's lap. It wasn't a fun night.
They say a wounded animal sometimes can be more threatening than just an animal at full strength. And I think that's kind of the case with the Lions defense. Like, they had to craft a perfect game plan, and they did. They got pretty damn close to it. Meets McGee with another super chat. Thank you for this $5. Says, I was giving Dennis a chance before critiquing. Bucs desperately missing a talented alpha dog at middle linebacker, a Hardy Nickerson type backer who gets on teammates. Yeah, I mean,
I've given Servatier Dennis enough grace, enough time to learn. The book is not closed on his season yet. We'll see what happens. The good is good. The 12 tackles were good. He came through in a blitz. Granted, he kind of caused Jared Goff to trip a little bit. Whatever. I mean, he got a sack. He's still better than KJ Britt.
Yes.
But boy, there are some weaknesses in terms of his ability to run out to the flat. And again, we're talking about another top 10 back here, right? We're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, just like we talked about Bijan Robinson. These are top 10 running backs. These are elite running backs. I think that 70-yard touchdown run that he had in the game, Matt, you didn't hear this, but on the broadcast, they said he was running at 23 miles per hour. It's the fastest rushing touchdown in the NFL, in 3 years, according to all the little stats and metrics. So, yeah, I mean, we're talking about some alpha athletes here that just have more speed than he does. I mean, you're talking about a top 10 pick versus a 5th round linebacker, and sometimes that's what you get.
The problem with Servatier Dennis is that the good play he has doesn't outweigh the hiccups that he has on defense that lead to not just solid gains, but we're talking about 30-yard receptions that set you up 1st and goal at the 5, or scoring a touchdown like Bijan Robinson did in week 1. And there are good traits with Servatier. I just see him looking big picture for the Bucs. I think he's a really good 3rd-string inside linebacker. I just don't know if he could be a starting inside linebacker. So we'll have plenty of the offseason to talk about what they need to do at the position. I also wouldn't rule out maybe Jason Licht finding a veteran inside linebacker that can come in and help this team. I don't know who's available at the moment, but I wouldn't hate if they explored that either.
Yeah.
The Real Maverick, thank you for the $4.99 super chat, says, just a reminder, in 2020, lost to the Signals 2 times. I think you mean Saints. and looked terrible in
Yeah.
the second loss. This team has the leadership to bounce back.
Sure does. I mean, don't cry for the Bucs, man. They're 5-2.
Yeah, they'll be all right.
They're gonna be okay. It was an ugly loss. I can't remember not covering this team, and there wasn't like an ugly loss, even during the 2002 season, even 13-4 when they when the Bucs went 13-4 in 2021. There's a stub the toe game. There's an ugly loss. It just that other team gets paid too. And
yeah, it's the NFL.
It's the NFL. It is.
It wasn't even an upset loss. They were beaten by the Lions, one of the best teams.
And they were the favorite, and the Lions showed why.
One of the best teams in the league. But yeah, this is a close locker room. Yeah. We've seen them go on 3 to 4 game losing streaks and get out of the mud. So don't want them to get into a 3 or 4 game losing streak. I'm just saying this team knows how to bounce back.
A couple other guys too, and I dropped my 2-point conversion column in the chat where I kind of list some of the bigger names. We'll talk about these guys real quick here. So Bradley Chubb is a player that he's had 3 ACL tears, right? Yeah. And he's 28. I think he'll be 29 sooner rather than later. And the production is kind of there. He has 15 pressures on the year, which is not a lot. When you look at Yaya Diaby has 4 sacks, 23 pressures according to Pro Football Focus. Haason Reddick has a sack and a half and 26 pressures according to Pro Football Focus. So the fact that you have a player like Bradley Chubb, only 15 pressures, that's maybe a little bit of cause for concern there. He's not the guy that he was when he had 13 sacks a couple years ago. He's coming off of missing all of the 2024 season, right? So he's had 3 ACL injuries, 1 in 2024. Actually, it was the last game, I think, of the 2023 season, caused him to miss the entire 2024 campaign. And then had another ACL injury on the other knee in Denver in 2019, and then also had another ACL on one of his knees back in high school. So there's a little bit of an injury risk there. I kind of break that down in the 2-point conversion. Same thing with Jalen Phillips. He's had some injury issues himself, a torn Achilles, an ACL that he's had. These are not the cleanest physical specimens we're talking about here. They come with some warts, and some of these guys that we're talking about here, and I think maybe the best one might be Kayvon Thibodeau, right?
I would love Kayvon Thibodeau.
I think he might be the guy I would target the most, because you might be able to get him. He is not a starter. You have Abdul Carter, the first-round pick of the Giants, up there, and Brian Burns, who's leading the league with 9 sacks. So this is kind of like their third rusher. This, to me, would be the ideal guy. Still 25 years old. He was the 5th overall pick. And I want to say he is playing in his 5th-year option. So, but again, Matt, you need another edge rusher. Even if you're thrilled with Yaya Diaby, you're going to be looking for a young pass rusher the next year. And if you can get Kayvon Thibodeau for a mid-round pick this year, you have half a year to look at him, and if he helps you win, great. And if he's not the answer, then you don't have to re-sign him. Or if you do, then you can. But I'm not in favor of renting players for half a year. But this is an instance where, hey, if he's the next Shaq Barrett or Baker Mayfield, where you're kind of like taking, I'm not saying he's one man's trash, but like if you're giving him a fresh start, this might be the place where he just prospers, like we've seen with Mayfield and Barrett.
Yeah, he was great early on in his career, and I've seen the movie before of Bucs trade for Giants edge rusher, go on to win a Super Bowl. I'd love to see the sequel of that movie. And I think Thibodeau is a fantastic option that won't be as expensive as some of the other players that we talked about earlier on the show. So I'm all for Kayvon Thibodeau coming to Tampa Bay. And they got plenty of Oregon players, so why not just continue to build the Oregon pipeline as well? Bucs Basement, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says it's a no-brainer what Licht needs to do. Glaring holes are edge rusher and inside linebacker. Will he do it is another question. If he believes the team, he should.
Again, the timing of this, I think, works out really well, Matt. The bye week, because you've got the Saints game, and if you're 6-2, that's one thing. If you're 5-3, that's another. And then you have the bye week to kind of like rest, reset, look over the landscape. You're not worried about an upcoming game. You have a little bit of time to consult. with Rob McCartney, who's kind of in charge of the pro side of the scouting. There's Rob with Jason Light right there. And, and you huddle up with Mike Greenberg and say, what would it cost in terms of salary cap compensation, and all that. So I would love to see the Buccaneers entertain trying to go after one of these pass rushers, just because there are other NFC contenders that you don't want to necessarily have their rosters bolstered by players that you could have while you stand pat, because you know when's going to come back to bite you? January.
Yeah. No, it's two-sided. You're absolutely right. You want to boost your own team with a better player, but you don't want another team that you may face down the road to get the job done as well. Bucs Basement, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says, take care of business on Sunday, and the only 3 hard games after the bye are the Patriots, Bills, and Rams. Schedule gets a lot lighter. Yeah, so that's the other thing I want to add as well is you want to win every game, of course, but if you really want Jason Licht to go and make a trade, root extra hard for the Bucs to beat the Saints, because there's way more of an incentive for Jason Licht to go and make a trade if they are 6-2 coming out of the bye, or going into the bye and coming out of it. Now, these 3 games are certainly tough. There's no doubt about it. But going 6-2 gives you the cushion of, again, you want to win all 3 of these games. Yep. But if you went 1-2, that would put you at 7-4.
That's right.
With games against the Panthers twice, the Saints one more time, the Falcons one more time. They play the Cardinals as well. That's very winnable. They play Miami the second to last week of the season. So you get to 7-4. And you get through all those good teams. I mean, we're looking at a team that can win 11, maybe even 12 games, and certainly be lobbying for that number 1 seed. So have to take care of business, and it starts with the Saints on Sunday. Okay. Cali Bucks, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Says, had an opportunity. I don't agree that it's still here. Losing people fast. All our receivers are undersized now. Highly doubt Godwin is healthy. Too many holes. Pass rusher isn't the only need.
We'll see. I mean, they won 2 games without Mike Evans. Everybody else is like around 6'1" on this roster, or a little bit shorter. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see. See what happens in New Orleans.
I think Emeka Buka needs to stay healthy.
I agree.
I think they need to have Emeka Buka out there, because then it's it's like Tiny Toons out there with Baker at quarterback and Cameron Johnson and Tez Johnson and stuff like that. So they need Emeka Buka, unless Chris Godwin Jr. is coming back, but I don't really see that until after the bye.
Yeah.
And Dave Weber, thank you for the $4.99 super chat, says, what was with the receivers running into each other so much? Seemed like Tez was running the wrong routes several times.
Yeah, I would blame the rookie. I mean, when in doubt, blame the rookie. The thing is, they cross-train the receivers, so sometimes, you line up, and with motion, like you're going from, say 1 to 2 or something in the bunch formation or whatever, and maybe your head's swimming a little bit, like, well, when I was 1, I ran this route, but now I'm 2, I motion me inside in the bunch. Now I'm running this, and then you just have that brain fart, and that happens from time to time. As you get older, guess what? You get more brain farts. That's just how it is. Trust me. I'm 53. Maybe you're in my age group, or maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger. It's never too early or late to think about your retirement, though, and the folks over at Immunity Financial can help you with that.
Will your savings last through retirement? Most people plan for 10 years. A retirement can last 30. Healthcare, taxes, market swings, it all adds up. Take our quiz. Check your retirement readiness today. Immunity Financial.
That's right. The folks over at Immunity Financial want to help you save enough money for retirement. But how much is enough? Well, they have a great, fantastic quiz that you can take. It takes just 2 minutes. Scan that QR code right there and get your phones out. Scan that QR code, or visit immunity.com/retire and take the quiz. And it's a fantastic tool that'll help you kind of know what you have to have in this day and age with inflation and with the market where it is to be able to retire. We don't know when our expiration date is, right? I think only God knows that. So the thing is whether you want to retire at 65 or 70 or maybe even 55, right? we don't know how long we're going to last. And so we have to make sure that we have enough money saved up to enjoy our life in our retirement. And that's where the folks at Immuni Financial can help you. Again, visit them on the web at immuni.com/retire, or scan that QR code right there on the screen and take the quiz. Well worth it.
Shout out to Immuni Financial, and shout out as well to our Pewter Platinum members. Thank you all so much for your support, beginning with Scott Federico, Scotty J, Rayful Gordon, Noah Parr, Dave Anderson, Eric McMillan, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zap Brannigan, RP89, Connor Four Reels, Kevin Thomas, Mario Thomas, Leighton Carter, Brandon Riley, The Guy is Gifted, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Dominic Tarantino, HK Bucs, The Real Maverick, Brayon Pinkney, Brian Shucker, Black Gold 1999, Stephen Zool, King James 813, and Brian Green. Thank you all so much for your support of PewterReport.com and Pewter Report TV.
Yes, and we also want to thank too, while we get to the super chat, all of our Pewter Report TV channel members who have recently joined, rejoined, or leveled up: Tommy Leverone, Alan Abraham, Blueberry, Mr. King, Justin Parker, Super Straight Cash, Narav, Jean, or is it Jean? The Delaney, Matt Clark, Evan McCool, Seth Goodfellow, Casey Crawford, Robert Baker, Lee Sanders. We have a lot of new Pewter Report TV channel members. Really appreciate this, guys. Tall Florida guy, Eric Moreno, James Jeffrey, Tim Burton, D. Sliz, Brian Shucker, Black Gold 1999, Johnny Cash, Kids Family, Bucks and Crime, Steven Zool, Catbuck 88, Drill Man 32, R.I.P. Resi, Rip Resi, I guess, Jeremy Ragnarok Reed, Dan in Arizona, Sue then Child,
yeah.
Jordan Peterson, Chris Lichty, I apologize if I'm butchering your names, Arthur Stewart, James Walker, Jermaine Kelly, King James 813, Brian Green, Brandon Hardman, and Ducky Irving. Those are our latest, and I think there's a couple new ones too I haven't even gotten to yet. But over the last 10 days, those are the new members that we have. So thank you very much. We're going to run our Pewter Premier channel members right now. Too many to list here, but we're going to have some super chats here. We'll give you all your time in the sun here. These are our Pewter Premier members. Greatly appreciate your support.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, everybody. Moving on with the super chats. Thanks to the Real Maverick for this $4.99 super chat. Says, everyone giving up on the receiver corps. Did you forget this team beat San Francisco and the Seahawks without Evans and Godwin and no Emeka for a half? That's very, very true.
Yeah.
I think that there's more tape on Tez Johnson and Cameron Johnson. I think it'll be tougher to get that job done. That's why I think they need Emeka Buka. Also, the Bucs clearly have a lot of trust and faith in Tez Johnson because he played 68% of the snaps. That was the second highest among wide receivers after Emeka Buka was at, I believe, 75%. So Buka still played a little bit less than his typical average, but was out there a pretty good amount. But I'm surprised they didn't use Cameron Johnson a little bit more, considering that he was the leader in receiving yards just a week ago. He only played 22%. And Mike Evans got hurt in the second quarter, like 5 minutes ago in the second quarter. So there was time to get him involved in the third and fourth quarter. But
I had a sweet prop bet that I didn't hit. He needed one catch for 8 yards, and I would have won a lot of money. But it didn't happen. Yeah. But we're going to see a lot of Cade Otton. So that's why he's on the screen here. He's going to be featured like he was during that stretch last year. Remember, he had 4 catches, 81 yards. I think he had 5 for around 60 last week. So this is now 3 weeks in a row where he's really had a lot of production in the passing game. Obviously, a good rapport with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Cade Otton has emerged. It's so funny thinking a month ago, everyone's like, where's Cade Otton? Where's Cade Otton? Now, he's become the top target once again, with other players out. More Right Rudder, thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Says, I think Bucky and Chris Godwin Jr. injuries are worse than reported.
I think you're right. We haven't heard anything, but sometimes silence is deafening. So,
Todd Bowles said today that they're getting better, but doesn't know if they're going to be in. But doesn't know if they're going to be in play for this week. So I wouldn't count.
Hear they're not getting worse, Todd. Thank you for that insightful report there.
I mean, it's better than him saying, well, they've had a setback. And
exactly.
In December.
Yep. We have a great podcast tomorrow. It's Wednesday already. We're going to be
Yep.
at One Buccaneer Place, Bucs at Saints preview. That's what we do every Wednesday. We break down the opponent better than anybody. So make sure you're at 4:00 for that show. And we had a tremendous turnout for our Pewter pregame and Pewter game day show. So thank you very much. And I'll tell you what, whenever you see Troy Aikman on the broadcast, golly, man, turn off Troy and listen to Matt Matera, please. Your ears will thank you. But we've got another show coming up on Thursday, but we want to let you know, Pewter pregame, 9:00 on Sunday. Bucs at Saints. This is a big one. They're all big, but this is big because this has to be a bounce-back game for the Buccaneers. You can't let one loss turn into two and then head into the bye week with a sour taste in your mouth. So be there or be square at 9 a.m. Join Matt Matera and I. We're going to have the latest injury news right at 9 o'clock for you, heading into this big game right before the bye week. And then Daniel Morales and Matt Matera will be calling all the action for you guys at Pewter Game Day at 1 o'clock right here on Pewter Report TV. Our YouTube channel also streams live on X and Facebook, which is at Pewter Report. So make sure you check that out. We'll have a podcast Thursday, Pewter Insider on Friday. Still working on topics for those shows, but hey, it's already Tuesday and we're rolling along here.
That's right. Still a lot of content to come up. We appreciate everybody rocking and rolling with us. Still a lot of positive with the Bucs as the season rolls along. So if you're not already doing so, please make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video as well. How you're feeling about the Bucs? Comment below.
Yep.
After they lost. Are you still optimistic? Are you worried a little bit? Let us know. We'd love to see everybody's thoughts. But that's going to do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everyone, for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast.